What is up? Paul is here live again in my office slash living room to talk about podcasting yet again. Let's not forget that, talking about podcasting here and how you can make the most of your podcast, especially as it relates to your business. And what I want to talk about today is this interesting topic about monetization and how do we monetize our podcast. And one thing that keeps coming up time and time again when I talk to people who are thinking about starting their podcast is sponsorship. They want to get to that number where they can have sponsorship. They heard about people like Tim Ferriss who are getting millions of dollars from their podcast through sponsorship, and they want a piece of that too. Well, I'm here to talk about that and to tell you that that's not something that you should or even need to bank on. I'm speaking specifically to people who are business owners. So if you are a consultant, a coach, or an expert in your field, whatever that field is, and you're able to demonstrate that skill with your voice, then you want to start a podcast and think beyond getting sponsorship. And I'll break down what it is. So let's take a look at it. So what does it take to get sponsorship to be working? What does it take to make sponsorship work for your business, for your podcast? First of all, you need to get, for it to be even realistic, a realistic business option, a realistic monetization option for your podcast, for your business, it has to be in the thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of downloads per episode. And when you're just starting out, do not expect anything near to those numbers in the first 3 or even 6 months. I mean, honestly, have budget, unless you have serious investment. Well, even with that, do not expect those numbers when you're just starting out your podcast, right? So right off the bat, it's not you won't be able to generate any real revenue in the first 6 months to a year if you're depending on sponsorship. You have to have a really huge podcast to make that work, right? Also, when you're thinking about sponsorship, it's really a relationship that is rocky, it is tricky. You have to be able to endorse the right company. You don't necessarily want to work with a brand that doesn't fit in with your values or anything like that. So picking the right sponsor, negotiating the right deal, all that stuff, to have them put ads on your show. Right? I recommend a different option entirely for your business and for your podcast, especially if you are the one who's trying to gain that thought leadership through your podcast. There's a different way that I recommend and that I walk all my clients through. And that is the option of monetizing your own products and service through your podcast. So if you're an expert, you want to drive people to your course, you want to drive people to your coaching, your one-on-one coaching, whatever those offers are that you have created and you are working outside of your podcast, bring those onto your podcast. Whether you're doing solo rounds or whether you're doing interviews, you want to bring people on and have them take advantage of those offers, right? But first of all, before we begin to generate 6 figures or whatever it is from our podcast, you need to first have a strong foundation. So that's what I want to walk you guys through right now. Right? So here it is. This is what do. You don't want to go to sponsorship route, or you're thinking about how do I monetize my podcast before it even gets to the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of downloads, because in reality, you can, and a lot of people do, make a serious amount of revenue and for their business when they have 2,000 downloads per episode, 3,000, 5,000, under 10,000, and that I think is very achievable for you and for your business, right? So how do you do it? So there are two main things that you have to do, and I'll walk you through that, right? Now the first thing that you have to do for your podcast, for it to be a profitable podcast, is you have to be putting out good content. This is a cliche, I know, but it's very important. Put out good content, consistent content, and make the content extremely valuable and helpful. Now, this is something that I often say, and I'm going to say it again. I said it last live, I'm going to say it again in this live. Your podcast is not your business card. Your podcast is not your lead magnet. Now, what I mean by that is, people have, nowadays, what I'm seeing, lead magnets are things that are kind of not very valuable. Like, it's very surface level. And if you're thinking about going on your podcast and only giving the surface layer because you don't want to give away all the good stuff, they have to pay for that, you're already off to a bad start, especially for your podcast, right? How I want you to think about it is, if the person listening to my show can take my advice and make $10,000 with that, $20,000 with it, $3,000 with it, before I even do business with them, they'll think that it's a no-brainer to do business with me at the end of the day, right? So inject that mindset and that value into your podcast. And there's a structure in how to do it in a way that brings out the best in your content, while at the same time getting people excited to do business with you. And that's something that we cover in the idea to launch podcasting program that I offer. So if you're interested and you're a business owner, first of all, you have to be a business owner. You have to be generating revenue outside of, as a full-time business owner, and you want to scale it even further. That's you. Leave a comment down below that says launch, and I'll reach out to you and give you more information, right? So fine. You want to inject as much value as you can. That's one thing. You want to ensure that your episodes are super engaging, not preachy. You're telling stories. You're making people laugh. You're making people feel positive and entertained. You're making your content both valuable and entertaining. So it's called infotainment. If you have that going for you, you're already off to a great start. Now, once you have that layer, right, and once you have the confidence and that you're putting out content that people would pay for, they'll definitely generate money from taking your free advice that they listen to on your podcast. The next step is to make offers, right, and make offers very consistently in your podcast, right? So what I mean, so if you want to, let's say for example you have a goal of getting to $100,000 by the end of this month, right? How would you do that normally? You will go out there and you pitch to clients, and when you realize that, let's ignore that alarm for a minute. When you realize that you're getting closer to that deadline and the money's not there, what do? You pitch even more. That's the same thing I'm talking about here. Go on your podcast, give the value, and once you have the confidence in that the value is great, you can then make offers and feel no judgment or salesiness about it, because you're confident that you're giving all this value for free and extremely valuable. When they come to work with you after that, it will be even more valuable for them to do business with you. And it's really there's a different type of dynamic that gets created when people exchange money with you. I don't need to tell you, you already know that. When people exchange money with you, the value of the conversation, the value of the service you're providing is elevated even more, and they'll know that, they'll feel that. So make offers very, very regularly, and as I said, to your coaching, to your courses, and your services. And that, working with that connection, working with that combination is great. I will make it work for you. So let's go back over everything again. The first thing that I have to do is have the mindset that you're not thinking about going after those big numbers. You don't need to get those big numbers at the start. You can start with very small numbers, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, under 10,000, and make a successful, even six-figure podcast. I have one client who's doing that right now, right? Well, you can do that. That's possible. The second thing is having engaging content. Extremely valuable, that people would pay for. Extremely valuable, that people will take the advice from it and level up their business with it. And extremely entertaining and engaging. They're not being preached to, not being lectured to. They're being entertained. They're being given stories. They're able to process the information in a very easy way. Once you have those two things working for you, make offers, and make offers very regularly through your podcast. Get people to come in and purchase your products and services. Make very good offers and collect those offers with a system, right? So when you have that structure, you're off to the races, and I'm saying you'll have a very good time generating serious revenue from your podcast without needing any sponsors. And here's the thing. Here's the good thing about it. Once you have that system in place and it's working, all you have to do is scale. That means once you get more customers, to more listeners to listen to your podcast, that entire engine that you have will just continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. Okay, so imagine that, right? So that's everything. So again, if you want to know how do you create engaging episodes, and you want to workshop it with me, I workshop it with you. If you want to know how to build in offers into your podcast and get people to come in to the door of your podcast and want to take your offers up and take you up on your offers, and if you want to know how to collect those leads and then convert those into sales, I want you to then leave a comment on the below that says launch, and I'll reach out to you with more information about my idea to launch program. And that's everything, folks. I hope you took a lot of value away from this, and as always, talk soon.